Like, yeah, welcome back. So yeah, what's your name? Okay, so you missed yesterday's session. But anyways, what we do is we just very quickly recapitulate what we had discussed yesterday. What do we understand by NDS? If someone is asking you or talking about NDS, what do you mean by that? अब ऐसा मत बिहेव करना कि हमने तो अटेंड ही नहीं किया था, राइट? तो उसको ऐसा लगेगा कि मैंने अटेंड किया नहीं किया, क्या फर्क पड़ा? जिसने अटेंड किया उसको भी कहाँ पता है, isn't it? Anyone?
Conversion of international accounting standards.
Yeah, conversions of what you can say, our accounting standards with the international accounting standards, or we can say the international financial reporting standards. So we are converging with the IAS, IFRS, and we have designed our own accounting standard. That's what we refer as the INDAS, right? So basically it's the Indian accounting standard, uska short form humne kiya, which is INDAS. So what we do is we compare our accounting standard with the parallel IAS, IFRS. We find out what are the differences. And as far as possible, we remove the differences. If there are certain matters in which we disagree that this accounting treatment is not suitable for Indian conditions, then we leave it. What do we call that? The difference between the INDAS and the IAS or IFRS? The carve out, right? So we call it as the carve out. Carve out is a difference between the INDAS and its parallel IAS or the IFRS. So that's the carve out. And to the credit of the government as well as the institute which has set the INDAS, we have very few carve outs. So we are very close, not exactly, but very close to the IAS and the IFRS. And as I told you yesterday, that if we are going through the INDAS and if we are also aware about the carve outs, the sum total of the two amounts to we knowing very well the IFRS as well as the IAS. So that's how the system actually works. Yesterday, we had also seen the two numbering systems that we are following for the INDAS, right? You have INDAS 1, 2, and onwards. You also have 101, 102, and onwards. The reason is we are converging with IAS, then your numbering system will be 1, 2, and onwards. And if you are converging with the IFRS, then your numbering system will be 101, 102, and so on. So that's the number system that we follow for the INDAS. And also remember, INDAS is not applicable for all the companies, only selected companies. As of now, INDAS is applicable to all the listed companies, unlisted companies, if their net worth is 250 crores or more. And if you are applying INDAS, then its holding company, its subsidiary company, its joint venture, its associate, everyone will follow the INDAS. Right. And once you implement the INDAS, you cannot roll it back. You have to keep on following the INDAS forever and ever. So that basically sums up what we had understood for the INDAS. The main objective of INDAS is to bring about uniformity in accounting language. We want accounts to become the same. Basically, the financial reporting, or rather, I'll say the financial statements that we are preparing, we want that they are prepared following the same accounting principles, whether it is in India or outside India. Why should accounting principles be different in different countries? If the laws of science can be the same, then why can't be the accounting rules? So that's the main, what you can say, idea behind or the objective behind designing INDAS. So basically, it's a truly global standard that we are following, and more countries are joining this particular project. And I said, now all that we really want is USA also to become a part of it. Consultations have already started with USA. They have agreed in principle that they will also make necessary changes in their accounting standards, and they will also start moving towards the INDAS, moving towards the IAS, IFRS. And whenever that will happen, yes, we will indeed have uniform set of accounting principles, because that's the one major economy which has to agree to this particular project. So let's see how things move as far as USA is considered. But the European nations, the Gulf countries, in one way or the other, they have gone ahead with this particular project. Another country is UK also, because they also have their own accounting system, which is popularly known as the UK gap. So that also is a country which has to agree for the purpose of conversions. But the accounting principles in UK and the IAS, IFRS, they are quite similar. In US, things are very different. Unka koi specific accounting standards nahi hai. If you see in US, they don't have specific accounting standards. They basically have opinions, they have judgments, and they summarize all those judgments and everything. And on the basis of that, they are doing accounts. वहां पे पूरा rule based system है US में. They do not follow the principle based system that we follow in India, or for that matter any other country which has a proper accounting standard. तो वहां का accounting बहुत rule based है. So US में काफी problem आएगा as they move towards these accounting standards. They are definitely going to find it very tough, क्योंकि पूरा mindset change करना पड़ेगा वहां पे. यहाँ पे mindset already clear है कि our accounting standards या हमारा पूरा accounting system principle based है. वहां पे पूरा accounting standard और rather the accounting system पूरा rule based है. कोर्ट ने अगर कहा है कि इसका अकाउंटिंग ऐसे करना है तो फिर उसका अकाउंटिंग आपको वैसे ही करना है. सो कोई इंटरप्रिटेशन नहीं है प्रॉपर. इट्स बेसिकली रूल बेस्ड. बट हाँ, वो सारे जो जजमेंट्स कोर्ट्स के आए हैं, दे आर वेरी वेल रीजन्ड. सो व्हेन यू रीड द एंटायर जजमेंट, इतना सारा उसमें discussion हुआ है that it actually gives a lot of literature in accounts, but the system of accounting is very different. वहाँ का market is also a very litigious market. Litigious market मतलब वहाँ पे cases बहुत आसानी से लोग कर देते हैं. अगर मैंने किसी कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट किया है और वो कंपनी ने डिविडेंड कम दिया, तो इन्वेस्टर्स विल टेक दैट कंपनी टू कोर्ट के आपने डिविडेंड इस बार हमें कम दिया. Yeah, if they really come to know कि you are following the let us say WDV method of depreciation और आपका ही competitor SLM follow कर रहा है, तो उसका profit ज्यादा आ रहा है, आपका कम आ रहा है, तो केस कर देगा कंपनी के ऊपर. So India में we understand these things कि these are all choices. Some company may follow SLM, some company may follow WDV. So हमारा पूरा principle based mindset है. So we understand कि okay, उनका depreciation method अलग है, तो उनका profit भी थोड़ा बहुत अलग आएगा. वहां पे ऐसा नहीं है. सो देयर आर अ लॉट ऑफ रूल्स कि अगर ऐसा एसेट है तो ऐसे ही डेप्रिसिएशन प्रोवाइड करना है, अगर ऐसा एसेट है तो इसके ऊपर ऐसे ही डेप्रिसिएशन प्रोवाइड करना है. तो उन्होंने सारा रूल बना दिया है सो दैट द लिटिगेशन कैन बी मिनिमाइज्ड. सो एज एंड व्हेन यूएसए विल move ahead with this project of bringing about uniformity in accounting practices, it is going to be quite tough for them. But given a time period of 5 to 10 years, I'm quite confident that it will be achieved. And the future of accounts will be very different. So maybe 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, we will be studying something which is truly global, something which is accepted all over the world. So when that will happen, yes, accountants in general will become highly mobile. And Indian accountants will have tremendous opportunities because your knowledge is something that you can apply any part of the world. यहाँ पे rupees लिखते थे, वहाँ dollar में करना है, कहीं पे जाके pound में करना है, right? So your understanding remains the same. Then what we did yesterday was we started with the meaning of current assets and current liabilities, and also non-current assets and non-current liabilities. We understand current asset as any asset which will fulfill any one of the 4 criteria. One, it is something that is getting realized or consumed in the operating cycle. So that is the first criteria. Second, it is something that you are holding for trading purpose. The third is it is something that will be realized within 12 months after the reporting date. And it is cash and cash equivalent, unless there are some restrictions and you cannot use that cash for a period of more than 12 months after the reporting date. If any one criteria is fulfilled, I'll consider that to be a current asset. Every other asset which is not a current asset will be non-current in nature. So non-current का कोई definition ही नहीं है. अगर वो current asset नहीं है, तो by default it will become a non-current asset. Similar thing we also have for a liability, right? If it is something that will be settled in the operating cycle, we'll consider it to be a current liability. If it is something which is held for trading, it's a current liability. If it is something that will be settled within 12 months after the reporting date, we'll consider that to be a current liability. And you should not have any unconditional right to defer the payment beyond 12 months after the reporting date. In such situations, we'll consider the liability to be a current liability, and everything else is a non-current liability. These are basically major heads that you are supposed to show in an Ind AS compliant balance sheet. क्योंकि जब आप Ind AS compliant balance sheet बनाओगे, your asset side will be divided into non-current assets and current assets. So you should be very clear about what is a non-current asset and current asset. और जो हमारा liability side आएगा, वहां पे liabilities will be segregated into non-current liabilities and current liabilities. That's the reason the definition absolutely matters. And finally, the last thing that we did yesterday was a carve out. So we had seen an important carve out where Ind AS 1 and IAS 1 actually differ. It was with respect to a loan which had become immediately repayable on the balance sheet date, but the breach was rectified before the approval of the financial statements. So IAS 1 argues that this is a current liability, and Ind AS 1 is arguing that this is a non-current liability. So that was an important carve out that we had seen yesterday, isn't it? Let's say a few of the questions. Yeah, question 1, it says that X Limited is a company engaged in the business of manufacturing white and rosé wine. The process of manufacturing white and rosé wine takes around 2 years. Due to this reason, X Limited has prepared its financial statements considering its operating cycle is 2 years, and accordingly classified the raw material purchased and held in stock for less than 2 years as current asset. Comment on the accuracy of the decision and the treatment of the asset by X Limited as per Ind AS 1. What do you say? You are a company which is manufacturing these 2 types of wine, and your operating cycle is turning out to be 2 years. And you are having some raw material which you are going to consume in 2 years. So this company has classified that as a current asset. Is this a right classification, or is it incorrect?
Correct.
Is it a correct classification? Yes. So as per Ind AS 1, an asset is expected to be realized in normal operating cycle is classified as current. Raw material purchased and held in stock is expected to be consumed within normal operating cycle of 2 years. It is rightly classified as current by X Limited. Right, the classification which was given was using the operating cycle criteria. You know, if any asset is expected to be realized or consumed within the normal operating cycle, we do classify that as a current asset. And this case was exactly falling in that. You know, this kind of questions normally when they are asked in exams, normally we are not ready to believe when the treatment turns out to be correct. Isn't it? अगर ये question exam में है और treatment correct दिया है question में ही, so many times we are not ready to believe. Okay, how is it possible? Answer में लिखना है treatment is correct, but we are always like ना कि question में normally incorrect treatment दिया होता है और हमें उसको correct करना होता है. So when we look at the question, we are like यार कुछ गड़बड़ तो है ही ये question में. तो अभी क्लास में कर रहे हैं हम क्वेश्चन, तो यू आर लाइक ओके फाइन, क्या फर्क पड़ता है करेक्ट बोल दे या इनकरेक्ट बोल दे. लेकिन एग्जाम में जब ऐसा क्वेश्चन आता है ना, आई हैव माई सेल्फ एक्सपीरियंस दिस, दैट्स द रीजन आई एम सेइंग कि व्हेन द ट्रीटमेंट इज करेक्ट वी आर जस्ट नॉट रेडी टू बिलीव. क्योंकि ये तो सिर्फ अकाउंटेंट है ना, वी आर सीएमएस. वो अकाउंटेंट को क्या पता क्या करना है, उसको इतना नॉलेज कहाँ से आ गया Ind AS 1 का. वो तो जब हम लिखेंगे ये ट्रीटमेंट इनकरेक्ट है, करेक्ट ट्रीटमेंट ये है, तभी तो we can show ना कि तुम accountant हो और मैं CA में हूँ. Yes or no? लेकिन ऐसा पॉसिबल हो सकता है ना कि वो अकाउंट्स डिपार्टमेंट में भी कोई CA में ही है. सारे अकाउंट्स डिपार्टमेंट में अकाउंटेंट ही होते हैं, ऐसा थोड़ी होता है. Isn't it? So that this company seems to be that, and that's the reason it has given a correct treatment. Okay, question 2. Why are they not able to view the question? What do you mean? You don't have the copy of the question, or you are not able to see the question? Yeah, Parth. Are they able to hear me or not? Yeah, Parth and Viraj. Are you able to hear me? मुझे कुछ करना होता है क्या यहाँ से? लॉगिन करके चले गए कहीं. Parth, are you there? Give some indication that I can come to know. Yes, Parth.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what were you saying? I mean, you are not able to see the question, or you want the PDF?
The screen is shared, sir, but something different is there. You know, the PDF is not able to view.
I have shared something else or what?
Yeah.
Just a second. Share. Is it okay now, Parth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And where is Viraj? Yeah, Viraj.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Thank God. Okay, shall we start then? Good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, question 2, it says, Calculus Limited provides you the following information. So you have a raw material holding period 5 months, work in progress holding period is 1 month, finished goods holding period is 3 months, and data collection period is 5 months. Right, all this will basically help us in calculating the operating cycle, isn't it? So what you should really do is you should take a sum total of all this, and that is what will give you the operating cycle. That's what they are asking us, that you are required to compute the operating cycle. So I will just add up these, right? 6, 9, and 5. So 14. So 14 months is turning out to be the operating cycle. They said trade payables of the company are paid in 12.5 months, whether these should be classified as current or non-current. आपका operating cycle है 14 months, and you will be settling the current liability in 12.5 months. So I can classify this as a current liability, isn't it? So operating cycle is 14 months. As per Ind AS 1, a liability expected to be settled in normal operating cycle will be classified as current. Trade payables are to be settled in 12.5 months. That is within the normal operating cycle of 14 months. Trade payables are classified as current. Yes, I like you to do this. Question 3, just go through the list and decide whether it is current asset or a non-current asset. You have to write in your own. General नहीं करना है. हाँ? Ready with that? So they are saying decide whether the following are current assets or non-current assets. Raw material, it is a current asset, right? Loose tools, current asset. Plant and equipment, non-current asset. Investment property, non-current asset. Office equipment, non-current asset. Cash in hand at bank, current asset. Investment in equity shares intended to be held for at least 3 years, non-current asset. Debtors for goods, current asset. Obsolete stock. Yeah, obsolete stock, it will be current asset. Say stock ultimately is held for trading, and we know that any item that you are holding for trading, it will be considered to be a current asset. So stock has become obsolete. That is another issue, but ultimately initially it was held for trading, isn't it? So it will remain a current asset. Okay. Raw materials held to be consumed in 15 months. Operating cycle of the company is 18 months. It will be a current asset. Debtors are expected to pay within 8 months. Operating cycle is only 3 months. Why non-current? I'm just asking. So
Okay,
non-current,
months.
yes. But then there is another criteria of 12 months also. Right, so it will fall in that and it will become a current asset. So there are 4 criteria. No, चारों चार condition आपको fulfill नहीं करनी. It has to fall in any one of the criteria. So it should be something that is getting realized or consumed in the operating cycle. That is one of the criteria. Of course, यहाँ पे operating cycle सिर्फ 3 months है and it is going to be paid within 8 months. लेकिन एक दूसरा भी criteria है that it will be realized within 12 months. So it will become a current asset. Yes, debtors are expected to pay within 15 months. Operating cycle is 9 months. This is non-current asset. Right? क्योंकि वो जो criteria जो 12 months वाला है वो क्रॉस हो गया. हाँ, अगर ऑपरेटिंग साइकिल 15 months होता तो अलग बात है, लेकिन ऑपरेटिंग साइकिल सिर्फ 9 months ही है. So it will become a non-current asset. Debtors are expected to pay within 12 months. Operating cycle is only 3 months. Current asset within 3 months. And operating cycle is 12 months. यहाँ पे actually operating cycle का कोई importance ही नहीं है. अगर 12 months के अंदर ही हो जाने वाला है तो वो automatically current asset ही हो जाएगा. Our age old concept that we were discussing yesterday, relevance से हमारे दिमाग में रखा हुआ है ना ये, कि if it is within 12 months then it should be considered to be a current item. So operating cycle तो unnecessarily just to take us on some another road ऐसे ही दिया है. 12 months के अंदर हो गया. So it's a current asset. Residential units of a contractor are expected to be sold within 3 years. Operating cycle of the contractor is also 3 years. This will be a current asset. Franchise agreement, non-current. Bank balance reserved by loaning bank as security for a loan repayable 15 months from now. This will become non-current. We know that basically cash in bank is a current asset, लेकिन अगर उसके ऊपर restrictions है and because of that restriction आप वो पैसा 12 months से ज्यादा टाइम के लिए यूज नहीं कर पाओगे, then it will become non-current. तो ये उसमें ही fall होगा. Investment in debentures listed on NSE held for trading. Anything held for trading is current item. Investment in debentures listed on NSE held for entire tenure of 5 years. It will be non-current. भले ही वो listed है, लेकिन मुझे उसमें trade नहीं करना है. I will be holding it for a period of 5 years. Because I will hold it for a period of 5 years, it will become non-current asset. Are you all okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Everyone? This time, one more list classify into current liabilities, non-current liabilities. with it? Yeah, debentures. Non-current liability. See, in general, debentures will be non-current liability. Of course, if they are repayable, someone can always argue, okay, what if it is repayable within 12 months? Yeah, then in that case, it can become a current liability. लेकिन अगर balance sheet में हम देखेंगे in general debentures, then we will consider it to be non-current liability. Bills payable, current liability. Creditor is payable within 10 months. Operating cycle is 8 months. Current liability. This will fall in that 12 months criteria. Loan repayable after 15 months, non-current liability. Yes, bonds are of rupees 50 lakhs, rupees 10 lakhs is payable within 12 months. क्या होगा यहाँ पे? 10 lakhs will be current liability और बाकी के 40 lakhs will be non-current liability. Right. So total 50 lakhs से 10 लाख आपको 12 महीने में ही पे कर देना है, तो वो 10 लाख current liability होगा और बाकी के 40 lakhs non-current liability. 12% secured loan payable after 3 years. Operating cycle is 2 years. Interest for 3 months has accrued but is not due. Interest will be current liability. और जो loan amount है, right, the principal amount, that will be non-current liability. Interest तो आपको 12 महीने में पे कर देना पड़ेगा ना, so that's the reason it will be a current liability. और जो principal amount है जो 2 साल के बाद आपको पे करना है, 3 years के बाद पे करना है, that will be considered to be non-current liability. Creditor is payable 15 months from the balance sheet date. Operating cycle is 9 months. Non-current liability. Creditor is payable within 12 months. However, historical evidence suggests that creditors are always paid after 15 months. क्या कहते हो? They are payable within 12 months. But we take our own sweet time and we always pay them after 15 months. Non-current? Yes. Why non-current? Generally payable after 15 months. Generally payable तो 12 months में ही है, तो तुम 3 महीने ज्यादा ले रहे हो. Current liability? Non-current? It will be a current liability, right? Because it is payable within 12 months. So we have to see what is the contract. The contract says कि 12 महीने में आपको payment कर देना है. So I will classify this as current liability. वो मैं खुद ज्यादा time लेता हूँ payment करने में, that cannot change the classification. 12 months के बाद अगर वो creditor मुझे phone करता है and ask me कि आपको अब payment कर देना है, तो मुझे payment करना ही पड़ेगा. See, I am obliged. वो मैं नहीं करता वो अलग बात है, but I am already obliged. But maybe my relationship with the creditor is really good, so that person doesn't mind even if I'm taking some extra 3 months to make the payment. But that does not mean that the liability has become a non-current liability. It definitely remains a current liability. On 31st March 2017, a company breached a covenant of the loan and hence the loan became immediately payable. On 5th April 2017, the bank agreed to waive the covenant. This will be a non-current liability. This is falling in that case of carve out, right? अगर यहाँ पे मैं IAS 1 apply कर दूंगा तो ये current liability हो जाएगी. As per Ind AS 1, it is a non-current liability. Provision for gratuity payable, non-current liability. We are assuming that the gratuity will be payable whenever the employee will leave the organization, and we are further assuming the employee 12 महीने के बाद will leave the organization. Of course, थोड़ा assumption किया है हमने, but we can say in general it will be a non-current liability. Bank overdraft is payable on demand. Bank in the past 5 years has never demanded the spot payment of bank overdraft. It's very much like that creditor thing, right? So the bank overdraft is payable on demand. लेकिन बैंक ने आज तक कभी भी उसका पैसा मांगा ही नहीं. क्यों मांगेगा? बैंक को तो उसके ऊपर इंटरेस्ट अर्न करना है ना. तो जैसे ही आप ओवरड्राफ्ट हो जाएगा, देन द बैंक will start calculating the interest. अगर बैंक ओवरड्राफ्ट वो इमीडिएटली कहेंगे कि अभी ओवरड्राफ्ट हो गया, इमीडिएटली आओ पैसा भर दो, तो फिर हाउ विल इट अर्न द इंटरेस्ट? तो लास्ट 5 years से उन्होंने कभी भी पैसा मांगा नहीं है. दैट डज नॉट मीन that it has become a non-current liability. Agar by chance unka phone aa gaya ki please come and immediately pay the bank overdraft, I have no legal recourse available because my facility is payable on demand, and that's the reason it will be, yes, a current liability. Okay. Now, when we are preparing the financial statements, which are Ind AS compliant, let's understand what are some of the general features of those financial statements. जैसे हमारा अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड 1 था, रिमेंबर AS1 आप लोग ने किया होगा. AS1 तो in group 1, AS1, disclosure of accounting policies. There are 3 fundamental accounting assumptions which are made. कौन आ गया? कौन पूछ लो आप, कौन कौन से फंडामेंटल अकाउंटिंग assumption याद है? सब बोलो चलो. Which are the 3 fundamental accounting assumptions? Yes, you are right. Fundamental accounting assumptions are going concern, accrual, and consistency. Yes. So these are what we refer as the fundamental accounting assumptions. So basically these 3 are what we understand as some of the general features of financial statements. अगर किसी कंपनी का मुझे एनुअल रिपोर्ट मिलेगा, लेट्स से उसने इंड एस फॉलो नहीं किया, उसने अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स फॉलो किए, तो ये 3 चीजें आई विल एक्सपेक्ट. These are fundamental accounting assumptions. So इसका कोई डिस्क्लोजर आपको नहीं करना है. That's the reason we say it is fundamental accounting assumption. कंपनी को कहीं पे लिखना नहीं है कि we have followed accrual principle of accounting. अरे it is assumed. कंपनी को कहीं पे लिखना नहीं है कि we are a going concern. It is assumed. तो ये तीनों चीजें फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में हमेशा होती है, and that's the reason we say it's a fundamental accounting assumption. वो हमारे जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स हैं उसका एक जनरल फीचर है. So similarly we want to know कि अगर किसी कंपनी ने Ind AS फॉलो किया है और फिर फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स प्रिपेयर किया है, तो what are our minimum expectation as a reader of the financial statement? What will be my expectation from those financial statements? So that is what we are referring as the general features of financial statements. The very first one is presentation of true and fair view and the compliance with the Ind AS, right? This is a very popular phrase that we always use, right? Even audit also revolves everything around true and fair view. Many a times in commerce, there are certain terms which are used but never understood. And one of them is this true and fair view. किसी को भी पूछ लो है ना, क्या देगा? True and fair view. उनको पूछोगे what do you mean by true and fair view? Then you draw a blank. वो पता नहीं. लेकिन financial statement should be showing true and fair view. Anyone? What is true and fair view? Or rather, why do we use these words true and fair?
The users of financial statement are different from manager stakeholder के लिए financial statement कितना reliable है वो
Okay, we are basically commenting on the reliability of the financial statements. Agreed. Not manipulated. Okay. But why these words, true and fair? कोई दूसरे भी words. English is a vast language, right? कोई दूसरे words select कर लेते. Right and appropriate, right and reliable, right and not manipulated, as you are saying. ये कहाँ से आ गया? True and fair. आपने देखा होगा लॉ के क्वेश्चंस जो ऑब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, दे ऑलवेज राइट दैट comment with reasoning whether the following statements are true and false. They never write right and wrong. Have you ever wondered? लॉ का पेपर जब आता है तो ऑब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चंस आते होंगे ना, आपको कुछ स्टेटमेंट्स दिया होगा और आपको डिसाइड करना है. वहां हमेशा दे से ट्रू एंड फॉल्स. They never say right and wrong. Don't you feel they can use the word right and wrong also? Are the following statements right or wrong? Give your reasoning. Why true and false?
Opinion differs from person to person.
Opinion differs from person to person. Okay.
There is reasonable care, point of view about.
Reasonable care has been taken. Yes. You know what happens in law is there is a certain law which is passed by the parliament, and then we have to follow that particular law. And courts are expected only to interpret the law. Courts are not supposed to frame the law. हाँ, अगर कोई law उनको लगता है कि कोई law frame करना चाहिए, then they will appeal to the parliament कि भाई आप कोई law frame करो, इसके लिए कुछ चाहिए हमें. Otherwise उनका काम है सिर्फ law को interpret करना, right? And that's the reason in the eyes of the law, nothing is right or wrong. It is only true or false. By true or false, we mean we have to, what we can say, abide by the law of the land. That is it. कि इंडिया में ये रूल है, इस हिसाब से इसका अकाउंटिंग होना चाहिए. जैसे अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड, तो अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड में लिखा है कि इसका अकाउंटिंग इस तरीके से होना चाहिए. कंपनी ने वो किया कि नहीं किया. We will not debate into whether what is given in the accounting standard is correct or not. Someone can argue ना कि अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड में जो छाप के दिया ना वो तो गलत है. मैं बताता हूँ, रियल अकाउंटिंग ट्रीटमेंट तो ऐसे होना चाहिए. वो अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड में सब गलत है. सो वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू फॉलो दैट. That cannot be so. So whatever accounting standards have been followed, whether you agree with that accounting treatment or you disagree with that accounting treatment, आपको accounting उसके हिसाब से ही करना है. So an auditor क्या करेगा? Auditor will only check whether you have followed the accounting standard. We are not expected as an auditor to really check whether what is given in the accounting standard is correct or not, because एक बार वो accounting standard Companies Act में notify हो गया, then it has become a law, and now every company has to follow that particular law. Getting it? For example, COVID के टाइम पे तो कितने सारे rules and laws and regulations आ गए थे. You remember that? During the COVID time, I still remember that if you are in the car and you are not wearing a mask, तो 1,000 rupees, कितना 1,000 के 2,000 rupees का fine था. This was a law which I never understood. I am all alone in the car, right? खिड़कियां भी बंद है, मेरे आसपास और कोई है नहीं. Then why should I wear a mask? I'm just, अब तो COVID चला गया, so we can comment on that. So what sense was that say law really making? मुझे आज तक वो बात समझ में आया ही नहीं कि when I'm all alone, who exactly, I mean, मुझे कौन इन्फेक्ट करने वाला है, मैं किसको इन्फेक्ट करने वाला हूँ? कार को, मे बी तो फाइन पे करो कार को बचाने के लिए. So this was a law which I had never understood. और मुझे फाइन भी भरना पड़ा था इसलिए, और मैंने बहुत आर्गुमेंट किया था उसके साथ कि क्या फर्क पड़ता है, आई एम ऑल अलोन इन द कार. जैसे उसने मुझे रोका, मैंने इमीडिएटली आई वॉर द मास्क एंड एवरीथिंग. नहीं, लॉ में लिखा है ना कि यू हैव टू वेयर द मास्क इवन व्हेन यू आर ड्राइविंग अलोन. व्हेन आई एम ड्राइविंग अलोन, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? दैट पर्सन वाज ओनली इंटरप्रेटिंग द लॉ कि लॉ में ये लिखा है तो भाई आपको फाइन पे करना पड़ेगा. दैट इज व्हाट वी अंडरस्टैंड बाय ट्रू over here, isn't it? So law शायद गलत भी हो सकता है, possible that it might be incorrect, लेकिन courts and everyone will only interpret what has been framed, and then you have to abide by it. We cannot really argue whether that is correct or not. For example, in the Gulf countries, there are certain laws which are so harsh, right? सीधी फांसी दे देंगे वो लोग. So you are just caught, for example, कुछ drug deal में आप पकड़े गए हो तो directly फांसी, right? उनको बस that is their law. Do you really agree with such a stringent punishment? Quite possible. You may disagree with that. कि ऐसा थोड़ी ना होता है कि कोई बंदा पकड़ा गया उसको directly फांसी दे देने की. There has to be a fair trial, and then you can put that person in jail for some time and then that person can reform himself or herself, isn't it? Jails isliye to bana hai ki person can introspect and can bring certain changes. So quite possible that I may disagree. लेकिन गल्फ कंट्री में अगर आप किसी ड्रग के उसके साथ पकड़े जाओगे और फिर कहोगे कि नहीं इंडिया में तो ऐसा कोई लॉ था ही नहीं, तो आपने मुझे यहाँ कैसे पकड़ लिया? तो दे आर लाइक भाई वो इंडिया में था, यहाँ का लॉ तो यही है और वो लॉ जैसे है वैसे ही इंटरप्रेट होगा. So many people are against capital punishment, जो फांसी की सजा, which I am saying such a large number of people who are against it. There are so many countries which have actually banned capital punishment, कि capital punishment हो ही नहीं सकता. A lot of people are of the belief that we have no right to take away a life of another human being. चाहे उसने कुछ भी कर लिया हो, but that right is not with us. And that's the reason they have banned, say, capital punishment. India is still one of those few countries which does give capital punishment if the offense committed is, very heinous, then yeah, we still go ahead with it. So you can understand the law keeps on changing and courts are only interpreting the law. And that's the reason we use the word true. Law can never be right. Law cannot be wrong. You have to, jo bhi law frame hua hai, you have to just follow that particular law. That's the reason we have always used the word true in sense of interpreting the law. And fair, there are so many options which are available for the purpose of accounting because we follow principle based, हमारा rule based system nahi hai, we have a principle based system. So itni sari choices available hai. Out of all the choices which are available, with adequate care we select what is most appropriate. So the final answer aayega, it will never be an accurate projection. It will at best be a fair projection. P&L में जो profit दिखा रहा है company, क्या लगता है आपको? Really उतना profit है? Really? Because there are so many accounting estimates that you have actually made. कितने सारे estimates करके finally आपने P&L बनाया, right? Depreciation itself is such a huge estimate that you are making. फिर जितने भी provisions हैं सारे के सारे estimates ही आप कर रहे हो. So there are so many estimates that you have taken और फिर जाके आपने अपना profit calculate किया. तो at best that amount of profit is fair, definitely not accurate. So that's the reason we are saying it's true and fair view. Accounting standards को भी true and fair view दिखाना है और Ind AS वाले statements को भी true and fair view ही दिखाना है. So the financial statements must present a true and fair view of the financial position, financial performance, and cash flows of an entity. Now this is something new. ये हमारे India में something new आएगा, which all the companies which are following Ind AS will have to comply. अगर किसी कंपनी ने सारे Ind AS फॉलो किया है तो उस कंपनी को एक डिक्लेरेशन देना है that we have followed all the Ind AS. The management has to give this declaration. जो accounting standards जो है उसमें ऐसा कोई requirement नहीं है. Isn't this a real good thing? Where the management itself is saying that we have followed all the Indian accounting standards, right? So we want the management to give this declaration. So they say an entity whose financial statements comply with the Ind AS is required to make an explicit and unreserved statement of such compliance in the notes. Financial statements shall not be described as complying with the Ind AS unless they comply with all the requirements of the Ind AS. सारे के सारे Ind AS आपको follow करना है, then you can give this declaration that we have followed all the Ind AS. So as someone who is a reader of the financial statement, instead of the auditor telling me that we have followed, that this company whose accounts we have audited have followed all the accounting standards, I want the management itself to tell me that. So if I have invested in the company's shares, I want the management कि you clearly tell ना कि आपने सारे Ind AS follow किए कि नहीं. Auditor का report तो मैं बाद में देखूंगा, पहले आप बताओ आपने सारे Ind AS follow किए कि नहीं किए. So they have to give this unreserved statement that we have followed all the Ind AS. Even कोई एक requirement भी Ind AS की छूट गई है, you cannot give this declaration. So this brings about tremendous transparency insofar as the communication of the management with the shareholders is considered. Because I want my company's management to tell me that they have complied with all the NDAs. फिर मैं ऑडिटर्स रिपोर्ट देखूंगा एंड देन आई विल फाइंड आउट कि ऑडिटर ने कौन कौन सी गैप में पिन पॉइंट किया है. बट फर्स्ट डिक्लेरेशन शुड कम फ्रॉम the management, because the primary responsibility of preparing the financial statement does not lie with the auditor, it lies with the management. Then of course, going concern, which was there in accounting standard 1 also, even in the NDS also, you will be preparing financial statements, assuming that the entity is a going concern, that the entity will be continuing with its business in the foreseeable future, because वैसे ही आप financial statements बना सकते हो. अगर आपको रिलायंस का एनुअल रिपोर्ट मिलेगा तो हम ये क्वेश्चन कभी भी नहीं पूछेंगे कि ये कंपनी चालू रहेगी कि नहीं. It is assumed that this company will keep on doing the business for many years to come. So going concern principle is absolutely important when you are reading the financial statements. As against this, if you are receiving the annual report of, let's say, Vodafone Idea, a telecom company which is really struggling right now, then these going concern issues will definitely arise. Why I'm saying Vodafone Idea is because the auditor last time उनके auditors ने audit report sign करने से पहले management को ये question पूछा था कि क्या आपकी company going concern है, तो उस हिसाब से we signed the audit report. So this was a question that was asked to them, because we very well know that it's a telecom company which is struggling right now, right? It's struggling like anything for its own existence, and it is feared that it can collapse at any point of time. And if it collapses, then India will have only two major telecom companies. BSNL ko agar bhul jaye, then we'll have only two major telecom companies in India, which will, of course, Bharti Airtel and Reliance Jio. Those were the two companies left. This is the third company which is there. And everyone wishes, insofar as industry is considered, everyone wishes that at least three companies or three players should be there. India is such a huge country. In such a huge country, only two players does not make any sense at all. There has to be multiple players actually, but at least multiple nahi, at least three players to hone hi chahiye. But as a company, it is really struggling for the matter. So this was a question that was asked to them, and at that time they answered, it is a going concern. Again, this time also, I'm 100% sure that same question will be again asked to the management, कि क्या आपकी company going concern है या नहीं, and then we'll have to wait that what the company's management is suggesting. उनका exactly vision क्या है, it is really not becoming clear. And unfortunately, the government is also not, what we can say, playing a very active role in ensuring that the company survives. If you follow this company, Vodafone Idea, the reason why I follow is because I use Vodafone. That's the reason. I follow this company a little bit more because I know कि अगर ये company collapse हो जाएगी तो सबसे पहले तो मेरा mobile phone ही बंद हो जाएगा. So immediately I'll have to port to some another, and I don't really want to. I have been using this, what I can say, even before Vodafone came to India, right? Earlier it was Hutch. फिर काफी सारे बहुत सारे उसमें चेंजेस आके अब जाके वो वोडाफोन आइडिया हो गया है. But yeah, I have a, what we can say, since it's my first phone number and my first company, and I am a little bit old school, तो थोड़ा loyalty का factor और वो सब रहता है मेरा. So I'm still very loyally remaining. Although मेरे सारे family members सब port हो गए, सब जियो में चले गए. And to be very honest, at lot many places Vodafone work ही नहीं करता है, वो जियो ही करता है. And they keep on giving me glances कि अभी भी रहो तुम Vodafone, तो तुम्हारा phone बंद हो गया. And I don't have any problem. If I've gone on some vacation या कहीं पे गए और मेरा phone बंद हो जाता है, तो I am actually more happy कि अच्छा हुआ बंद हो गया. So there is no way anyone can contact me. तो मतलब negative चीज को मैं positively देख लेता हूँ. So that is how it actually happens. So I have a bit of genuine, what you can say, interest in that. So unki jo liability hai, that is to be converted into, what you can say, government holding. Basically, it will soon become a government company. So there are certain dues, unko government ko hi payment karna hai, and government has agreed, and Vodafone has also agreed कि इनका जितना थोड़ा जो dues हैं, it will get converted into equity shares, and those shares will be held by the government, and then government will become a major shareholder in that company. And ये already हो चुका है, गवर्नमेंट ने एग्री भी कर लिया है कि वी विल कन्वर्ट इट इनटू इक्विटी शेयर्स. वोडाफोन ने भी एग्री कर लिया है कि आप ले लो ये कंपनी, हमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, गवर्नमेंट कंपनी हो जाती है, वी हैव नो इश्यू विद दैट. वी विल कीप ऑन रनिंग द शो, बट एटलीस्ट गो फॉर दिस कन्वर्जन. सब सेट है, फिर भी गवर्नमेंट इज नॉट एक्सरसाइजिंग दैट ऑप्शन. वो कन्वर्ट ही नहीं कर रहे. गवर्नमेंट ने हाँ कह दिया है, वोडाफोन ने भी हाँ कह दिया है, फिर भी वो लोग कन्वर्ट नहीं कर रहे. गवर्नमेंट ने ऐसी कंडीशन रख दी है कि जब तक वोडाफोन आइडिया का शेयर प्राइस 10 रुपीज नहीं होगा तब तक हम कन्वर्ट नहीं करेंगे, क्योंकि आपके शेयर का फेस वैल्यू या पार वैल्यू 10 है, तो एमपीएस भी 10 रुपीज होना ही चाहिए. और वो 10 रुपीज हो ही नहीं रहा है. इट्स अराउंड 7.5 8 के बीच में वो खेलता रहता है. बेसिकली जैसे ही गवर्नमेंट उसको कन्वर्ट करेगा ना, ऑटोमेटिकली वो 10 हो जाएगा. इट्स लाइक दैट, पीपल आर वेटिंग कि वो गवर्नमेंट उसको एक्सरसाइज कर ले तो हम शेयर्स खरीदना शुरू कर दें, तो ऑटोमेटिकली 10 हो जाएगा. गवर्नमेंट इज कि पहले 10 करो फिर हम शेयर्स खरीदेंगे. सो दिस इज रियली गोइंग ऑन. आई डोंट नो व्हाट एग्जैक्टली विल बी द केस. और बीच बीच में रूमर्स आते रहते हैं दैट अदानी इज एक्चुअली इंटरेस्टेड इन टेकिंग ओवर दैट पर्टिकुलर कंपनी, और ये पूरा खेल उसके लिए ही हो रहा है. किसी भी करके उसको गिरा के मे बी 5 रुपीज 4 रुपीज 3 रुपीज तक ले आएंगे, एंड देन ऑल ऑफ अ सडन अदानी विल कम एंड एज अ सेवियर will take over that company at a throwaway price, because if that share is available only for 3 or 4, उनकी asset quality में कोई problem है ही नहीं. The network is also pretty good. अगर 4G की बात करें तो 5G अब उन्होंने introduce नहीं किया, but still there is no problem. So a lot of people say that this is what we can say the backdoor plan which is going on. And the way Ambani and Adani are buying companies these days, the way we shop on Myntra, isn't it? I mean, that is how they are buying these companies. I personally believe that in 10 years down the line, शायद सारे businesses ये दो houses के बीच में ही divide हो जाने वाले हैं. This is, I really feel that this is how they are really acquiring one after the other. Don't you feel so?
Yes.
Anyways, so that was what we were talking about going concern, that every company has to pass this particular test. Financial statements prepared under NDS should be prepared on a going concern basis unless management either intends to liquidate the entity or to cease the trading or has no realistic alternative but to do so. या तो मैनेजमेंट क्लियर है कि कंपनी को लिक्विडेट करना है. जैसे वोडाफोन आइडिया का अगर आप केस ले दो तो मैनेजमेंट को उसको लिक्विडेट नहीं करना है, मैनेजमेंट को ट्रेडिंग भी बंद नहीं करना है, लेकिन एक स्टेज ऐसा आ सकता है where you don't have any other realistic option available other than closing it out. So इतना सारा इन्वेस्टमेंट करने के बाद why will I like to liquidate that company? तो मुझे तो कंपनी चलाना ही है, लेकिन कोई ऑप्शन ही नहीं बचा. I may have to liquidate the company. So that is a case where the going concern principle will be no longer applicable. If management has significant doubt of the entity's ability to continue as a going concern, the uncertainties should be disclosed. So the management has to spell it out clearly that because of these reasons, we don't think this company is a going concern anymore. In case the financial statements are not prepared on a going concern basis, the entity should disclose the basis of preparation of financial statements and also the reason why the entity is not regarded as a going concern. If some company is not a going concern, the management will have to provide necessary disclosure कि क्यों आप कह रहे हो कि ये कंपनी अब going concern नहीं है, what are the uncertainties and what are the reasons. Everything has to be spelled out. But this is of course a rare situation. The general situation is that a company will always be assumed to be a going concern. Then of course, accrual basis of accounting. An entity is required to prepare its financial statements except for cash flow information using the accrual basis of accounting. जो cash flow statement है, that तो obviously cash के basis पे ही prepare होगा, लेकिन जो P&L है, जो balance sheet है, that will be prepared on the basis of the accrual principle of accounting. I will not have to wait till cash is received for recognizing revenue. I don't have to wait till I pay the cash to recognize my obligations. I have to follow the accrual principle of accounting, and accordingly, I will prepare my financial statements. Then, of course, materiality and aggregation. An entity shall present separately each material class of similar items. An entity shall present separately items of dissimilar nature of function unless they are immaterial except when required by law. So materiality will be also given due importance to. So every material item, it needs to be presented separately. And if you come to the conclusion that they are not material, you will aggregate them. So many times you will see in the P&L something written as miscellaneous expenditure. So many times in the P&L, we will see miscellaneous income. This is basically small sources of income or small expenses which are deemed to be immaterial, which have been clubbed together. So materiality concept should definitely be provided, and materiality will keep on changing from company to company. A company whose balance sheet size is running into crores of rupees may consider a few thousands of rupees here and there to be immaterial, while a company whose balance sheet is running only in thousands of rupees, for that, obviously, every item which is running in thousands will be a material item. So what is a material item for one company may not necessarily be material for another. Same way for immateriality. Offsetting, they say, assets and liabilities and income and expenses may not be offset unless required or permitted by an Ind AS. You should not be offsetting the assets and liabilities unless and until it is allowed by some Ind AS. For example, in your trial balance, you are having interest income and you also have interest expense. और मुझे मन हुआ कि दोनों को offset करके net amount दिखा देते हैं in the P&L. This will not be allowed, right? You cannot really offset this two income and expenses just because they are similar. I cannot really offset the two. I should be showing the interest income separately. I should be showing my interest expense separately. The same thing will apply even for any assets and even the liabilities. Yes, if some Ind AS is allowing you to do that, then you can do it. For example, Ind AS 12 mein, if you have a deferred tax asset and you have a deferred tax liability, तो दोनों को आप set off करके net amount दिखा सकते हो. तो Ind AS में allow किया है. So मेरा जो balance sheet बनेगा उसमें मैं deferred tax asset और deferred tax liability दोनों अलग-अलग नहीं दिखाऊंगा. I will set off the two and show the net amount. Why? Because it is permitted by the Ind AS. लेकिन अगर Ind AS में permit नहीं किया and just like that you are offsetting it, that will be not proper. So offsetting will be done provided it is permitted by some Ind AS. So those were what we call as the general features of financial statements. कोई Ind AS compliant company का financial statement मुझे मिलेगा तो इतना expectation मैं रखूंगा कि कहीं पे उन्होंने लिखा है कि हमने सारे Ind AS फॉलो किए हैं. उनको जरूरी नहीं है लिखना कि उन्होंने accrual principle of accounting फॉलो किया है. उनको जरूरी नहीं है लिखना कि they are a going concern. उनको जरूरी नहीं है कि हमने materiality concept फॉलो किया है. ये सारी चीजें assumed है कि अगर financial statements prepare हुए हैं as per Ind AS तो ये features तो definitely है. Now we look at the structure and content of the Ind AS compliant financial statements, right? सबसे पहले balance sheet. Balance sheet का क्या structure होना चाहिए? They say Ind AS does not prescribe any order or format for presentation of balance sheet. However, format has been notified by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. उन्होंने एक balance sheet का format दिया है and we have to follow that particular format. Ind AS के अंदर कोई format नहीं है. गवर्नमेंट ने फॉर्मेट बनाया है. अगर गवर्नमेंट ने फॉर्मेट बनाया है तो सारी कंपनीज को वही फॉर्मेट फॉलो करना है. And it is necessary. Only then you will bring about a uniformity in the structure of the balance sheet. Otherwise, every company will prepare balance sheet as per their whims and fancies, and then those balance sheets will not be comparable. ये तो चलेगा ही नहीं ना. Because one of the important aspect is comparability. I should be able to compare the balance sheets, especially if their companies are in the same industry. So I will like to compare the balance sheets, and comparison will become easier, smoother if the format of the balance sheet is the same. Statement of profit and loss. Yes, an entity should present in a single statement of profit and loss all the items of income and expenses इंक्लूडिंग कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकम, ये पूरा नया कंसेप्ट है इंड एएस में, विच इज द अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकम. वी विल डिस्कस दैट. सो आवर P&L, what you can say, ends at profit after tax. हमने एक बार प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्स कैलकुलेट कर लिया ना, फिर हमारा P&L खत्म हो जाता है. इंड एएस कंपनीज का P&L वहां पे खत्म नहीं होता. After that, they have to also disclose other comprehensive income. क्या है exactly? We will see that. वो next point है हमारा. And this is something which is very crucial that you should always remember in Ind AS. No items can be presented in the statement of profit and loss or notes as extraordinary item. कोई concept ही नहीं है extraordinary item का in the Ind AS. हमारे accounting standards में है concept extraordinary item का. एक्चुअली अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड 5 में सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम ही ये होता है कि ये एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी आइटम है या एक्सेप्शनल आइटम है, क्योंकि वो दोनों वर्ड्स यूज करते हैं वो अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड में. कभी कभी कहेंगे कि नहीं ये एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी, ये तो एक्सेप्शनल आइटम है. कभी कभी कहेंगे कि नहीं, दिस इज नॉट एन एक्सेप्शनल आइटम, दिस इज एन एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी आइटम. एंड वी कीप ऑन वंडरिंग ये कब एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी हो जाता है, कब एक्सेप्शनल हो जाता है. एज अ स्टूडेंट, यू नो, दैट इज वन ऑफ द मेन लर्निंग पॉइंट्स ऑफ अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड 5. ऐसा कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है इंड एएस में, राइट? नथिंग इज extraordinary. For example, if I say that there is a loss on account of flood, let's say किसी कंपनी में because of flood loss हो गया, तो हम हमारे accounting standards में क्या कहेंगे? That this is an extraordinary item, right? We will say extraordinary. Extraordinary means something which is non-recurring in nature and something which is not relating to our ordinary activities. It's not relating to my business activity, and that's the reason I'll say it's extraordinary. Ind AS is arguing that anything that happens in business can never be extraordinary. It is always ordinary activity only. हाँ, वो exceptional हो सकता है क्योंकि वो non-recurring है, लेकिन वो extraordinary नहीं हो सकता. तो कोई concept ही नहीं है extraordinary item का. And अगर आप logically सोचोगे ना, तो we can really agree with what the Ind AS is arguing. Think for a moment. Let's say अलकापुरी में बेसमेंट में आपका शॉप है. Just think for a moment. और every year monsoon में for a few days, you know, वो बेसमेंट में, क्योंकि आपका शॉप बेसमेंट है, for a few days वहां पे पानी भर जाता है, आपकी शॉप में पानी घुस के भी आ जाता है, आपको लॉस भी होता है, राइट? So this is what is happening. और वो हर साल होता है, ऐसा नहीं कि एक बार ही हुआ. हर साल मॉनसून में कुछ दिन के लिए आपकी शॉप बंद हो जाती है, and this is what you suffer. लेकिन फिर भी आप वो शॉप छोड़कर जाने के लिए तैयार नहीं हो. Why? I hope you are understanding what I am trying to say. अलकापुरी में आपका शॉप है, 5 दिन के लिए आपका मॉनसून में शॉप बंद रहता है क्योंकि पानी घुस के अंदर आ जाता है. तो आइडियली आपको शॉप छोड़ के निकल जाना चाहिए ना, लेकिन नहीं, आप शॉप छोड़ के निकलने के लिए तैयार नहीं हो. क्यों? क्योंकि आउट ऑफ 365 डेज 5 दिन प्रॉब्लम होता है, लेकिन बाकी के 360 डेज बिजनेस हैपेंस लाइक एनीथिंग. एंड आई एम कंपेयरिंग द टू, कि 360 डेज का बिजनेस छोड़ दूं कि फिर 5 दिन का लॉस छोड़ दूं. आई एम डूइंग अ कॉस्ट बेनिफिट एनालिसिस. आई एम अ वेरी रैशनल पर्सन, आई एम अ बिजनेस पर्सन. सो रैशनली मैं उसको एनालिसिस कर रहा हूं, एंड आई रियलाइज कि भाई 5 दिन का लॉस होगा, लेकिन बाकी के 360 डेज तो अच्छे ही जा रहा है ना. सो व्हाट डज दैट मीन? इट मीन्स ये जो फ्लड या जो लॉस, ये जो सब हो रहा है, यू हैव एक्सेप्टेड इट, दैट इट्स अ पार्ट एंड पार्सल ऑफ योर बिजनेस. कुछ एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी नहीं है इसमें. आपको पता ही है कि मॉनसून में ये होने वाला है. यू नो, आप मेंटली प्रिपेयर, जैसे ही सबसे पहली बारिश शुरू हो जाएगी ना, यू आर मेंटली प्रिपेयर्ड कि अब कभी भी ये शॉप बंद होने वाला है, राइट? सो यू आर मेंटली प्रिपेयर्ड. आप अपने एम्प्लॉयज को इंस्ट्रक्शन देना भी शुरू कर दोगे कि भाई ये सब सामान जो है उसको आप कहीं किसी और गोडाउन में रख के आ जाओ, क्योंकि कभी भी कुछ भी हो सकता है. सो यू हैव वेरी मच एक्सेप्टेड दैट इट्स अ part and parcel of your business, and that is what Ind AS argues, that anything that is happening in business is part and parcel. There is nothing extraordinary. So Ind AS में exceptional items होंगी, right? We have exceptional items in Ind AS, but we do not have extraordinary items. Yes, this is something new, right? You will be hearing this for the very first time, and that is other comprehensive income. और ये याद रखना, ये OCI continuously in different topics of say Ind AS, we will be using this term. It's a term that will be coming across quite often. So what do we mean by OCI? ये other comprehensive income exactly क्या है? Now, try to understand the concept of the OCI. There is some income, there is some expense. वो income को मुझे P&L में ले जाना चाहिए, वो expense को मुझे P&L में ले जाना चाहिए. लेकिन एक दूसरा Ind AS है, वो Ind AS ऐसा कह रहा है कि ये income को आप P&L में credit नहीं कर सकते, या वो Ind AS ऐसा कह रहा है कि ये expense आप P&L में debit नहीं कर सकते. ऐसी इनकम, ऐसी एक्सपेंस जो कोई Ind AS कह रहा है कि P&L में नहीं जा सकता, वो कहां जाएगा? You have to show it under the head of other comprehensive income. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? There is some income which I will like to credit the P&L, but the Ind AS is saying sorry, आप P&L में नहीं ले जा सकते. So I have to show it under other comprehensive income. कोई एक्सपेंस है जो मुझे P&L में डेबिट कर देना है, लेकिन कोई Ind AS है जो कह रहा है कि आप ऐसा नहीं कर सकते, आप इसको P&L में डेबिट नहीं कर सकते, तो मुझे कहां ले जाना है? I have to take it to the other comprehensive income. लेकिन मेरा एक नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन भी होगा. माय नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज कि वो Ind AS ऐसा कह रहा है कि आप ये इनकम आज P&L में नहीं ले जा सकते. फाइन, मैं नहीं ले जाऊंगा, बट कैन आई टेक इट टू द P&L इन फ्यूचर? फ्यूचर में ले जा सकता हूं क्या मैं P&L में? चलो ये साल तो आपने मना कर दिया कि इसको आप P&L में नहीं ले जा सकते, लेकिन फ्यूचर में क्या मैं P&L में ले जा सकता हूं? आंसर कैन बी ईदर यस और द आंसर कैन बी नो. So any item that will be shown under the head of OCI will be further classified. उसका classification कैसा होगा? Not to be reclassified to the P&L, to be reclassified to the P&L. उसका further classification आपको करना है. So कोई ऐसी income जो आज P&L में नहीं जाएगी और future में भी P&L में नहीं जाएगी, that you will show under the head OCI. Of course OCI में दिखाएंगे, लेकिन under the subhead not to be reclassified to the P&L. कोई ऐसी income या ऐसा expense जो आज P&L में नहीं जाएगा, लेकिन फ्यूचर में जा सकता है P&L में. अगर फ्यूचर में वो P&L में जा सकता है, तो where will I show it? Under OCI, but under what subhead? To be reclassified to the P&L. So that's the further, what you can say, sub-classification that will happen for incomes and expenses, which will be shown under the head of OCI. So basically, a company is supposed to show the income and expenses which have got debited and credited to your profit and loss account, जिससे आपका profit after tax बनेगा. तो वो जो P&L, जो normal हम P&L बनाते हैं, उसमें हम PAT कैलकुलेट करेंगे, लेकिन उसके बाद हम हमारे शेयर होल्डर्स को ये भी कहेंगे कि सी, इसके अलावा ये सारी इनकम भी है और ये सारे एक्सपेंसेस भी है, लेकिन Ind AS ने हमें उसको P&L में ले जाने से मना कर दिया, इसलिए हमने उसको P&L में नहीं ले गए, लेकिन ये सारी इनकम और एक्सपेंसेस भी ये साल तो हुई है, और फिर उसको फर्दर मैं सब क्लासिफाई करूंगा कि वो फ्यूचर में P&L में जाएगा कि नहीं जाएगा. Okay, so that is what we understand as the concept of other comprehensive income. अब थोड़े एग्जाम्पल समझ लेते हैं ऐसा एग्जैक्टली कब होगा, राइट? इफ वी कैन जस्ट अंडरस्टैंड विद एग्जाम्पल्स, तो वो ज्यादा इजी हो जाएगा हमारे लिए समझने के लिए कि कब वो P&L में फ्यूचर में जा सकता है, कब वो P&L में फ्यूचर में नहीं जा सकता. Let us say you are doing upward revaluation of some fixed asset. Tell me. आप लोगों को उसका ट्रीटमेंट तो डेफिनेटली पता ही है. अगर कोई फिक्स एसेट है, मान लो आपका कोई मशीनरी है, उसको आपने, या बिल्डिंग है, उसका आपने अपवर्ड रिवैल्यूएशन किया. अभी बुक्स में आपकी बिल्डिंग की वैल्यू 10 लाख है, लेकिन उसका करंट वैल्यूएशन आया है 30 लाख, तो मुझे बिल्डिंग को मेरी बुक्स में 20 लाख से बढ़ा देना है. इफ आई इंक्रीज द वैल्यू ऑफ द बिल्डिंग बाय 20 lakhs, टेल मी, can I credit this 20 lakhs to profit and loss account? Can I transfer it to the P&L? So आप खुद ही जवाब दे रहे हो ना, it cannot go to the P&L. तो इंड एस में उसको कहाँ दिखाना पड़ेगा? अंडर ओसीआई, उसको अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकम में दिखाना पड़ेगा. इन अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकम यू विल से अपवर्ड रिवैल्यूएशन, या तो फिर यू विल से रिवैल्यूएशन गेन ऑन बिल्डिंग 20 lakhs. ओके, सो ये आइटम जाएगा इन ओसीआई. नाउ आज आप वो P&L में नहीं ले गए, कैन यू टेक इट टू द P&L इन फ्यूचर? आपने अपवर्ड रिवैल्यूएशन किया 20 लाख का, तो आप खुद ही कह रहे हो ना कि रिवैल्यूएशन रिजर्व में जाना चाहिए, तो हमने उसको रिवैल्यूएशन रिजर्व में ले गए, विच इज नथिंग बट टेकिंग इट टू ओसीआई. फ्यूचर में क्या मैं उसको ला सकता हूँ P&L में, या वो रिवैल्यूएशन रिजर्व में ही रहेगा? कैन आई ब्रिंग इट बैक टू द P&L? Yes. When can you bring it back to the P&L? When you sell that building, can we bring it to the P&L or it goes to the general reserve? When you sell the building, that revaluation gain will become a free reserve. तो उस टाइम पे वो P&L में जाता है कि जनरल रिजर्व में चला जाता है? It's a very finer point, isn't it? It will go to general reserve. It will not go to the profit and loss account. In other words, once something is transferred to the revaluation reserve, that money can never return back to the profit and loss account. So OCI में हम कहाँ पे दिखाएंगे इसको? Not to be reclassified to the P&L, क्योंकि ये आज तो P&L में नहीं गया, फ्यूचर में भी P&L में नहीं जाएगा. So that is the nature of that particular item, and hence I will show it under the head of OCI, not to be reclassified to the P&L. और फिर उसका जो भी टैक्स इंपैक्ट होता है वो भी उसके नीचे आपको दिखा देना है. Okay. Then another possibility is that you may receive some government grant, right? आपको government grant मिला है, so you have received some government grant and you have decided to follow the deferred income approach. तो आपको 10 लाख रुपए की grant मिली है, government grant, and that particular grant you have utilized for buying some asset, and that asset has, let's say, a useful life of 5 years. So what the accounting standards basically say is कि अगर आपको government grant मिला है किसी एसेट के लिए जो आप 5 साल यूज करने वाले हो, तो ऐसी गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट को आपको ट्रीट करना है एज अ डिफर्ड इनकम. मतलब पूरा का पूरा 10 lakhs आप P&L में क्रेडिट नहीं कर सकते. सो आई कैन नॉट क्रेडिट इट टू द P&L. तो पूरा 10 lakhs P&L में नहीं जाएगा, तो कहां जाएगा? OCI में जाएगा. सो आई विल शो इट अंडर अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकम. लेकिन वही स्टैंडर्ड ऐसा भी कहता है कि क्योंकि आपने ये फिक्स एसेट के लिए लिया है, तो इन द रेशियो ऑफ डेप्रिशिएशन ऑफ दैट फिक्स्ड एसेट यू कैन टेक ट्रांसफर्स फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट टू द P&L. सो वो गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट में जाएगा और फिर वहां से 5 साल के ऊपर, मतलब अगर 10 लाख का ग्रांट मिला है तो 10 lakhs divided by 5, every year I will transfer, assuming SLM depreciation, every year I will transfer 2 lakhs of rupees to the P&L. So just see, आज आपको 10 लाख रुपए मिले गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट के, क्या पूरा का पूरा 10 lakhs P&L में क्रेडिट हो सकता है? नहीं हो सकता. तो कहां जाएगा? OCI में. आज तो P&L में नहीं गया, लेकिन फ्यूचर में P&L में जा सकता है. फ्यूचर में P&L में जाएगा, इन द रेशियो ऑफ डेप्रिशिएशन में उसको ले जाऊंगा P&L में, तो ये OCI में दिखाएंगे, लेकिन अंडर द सब हेड ऑफ टू बी रिक्लासिफाइड टू द P&L. ऐसे बहुत सारे और एग्जांपल्स भी हैं, बट दोज विल बिकम सर्टेन एडवांस्ड एग्जांपल्स, क्योंकि वो सारी चीजें हमने अभी डिस्कस ही नहीं की है. बट दिस इज द बेसिक फंडा. These are a few things that you already know on the basis of your understanding of accounting of fixed assets and accounting of government grants. So I've given you those examples. वही चीज हम OCI के कंसेप्ट में यूज करेंगे. ओके, सो बेसिकली क्या होगा, OCI को देखकर मुझे पता चलेगा कि अच्छा ये कंपनी को 10 लाख का ग्रांट भी मिला है इस बार, क्योंकि हमारे जो नॉर्मल अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड वाला जो P&L बनेगा उसमें तो गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट मिला है, वो कहीं पे मैं मतलब नोट्स में लिखा होगा, लेकिन P&L में कहीं पे भी लिखा नहीं होगा कि गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट भी मिला है. लेकिन OCI में दिखाकर यू आर टेलिंग योर शेयर होल्डर्स कि इस साल 10 लाख का गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट मिला है. OCI देखकर शेयर होल्डर विल अंडरस्टैंड, या एनी रीडर विल अंडरस्टैंड कि ये साल 20 लाख का कुछ रिवैल्यूएशन गेन भी कर दिया है इन लोगों ने. तो बैलेंस शीट में जो बिल्डिंग है वो 20 लाख से ज्यादा होगी, क्योंकि आपने उसका अपवर्ड रिवैल्यूएशन किया है. सो काफी सारी चीज है जो नॉर्मल एनुअल रिपोर्ट्स में स्कैटर्ड है अंडर डिफरेंट नोट्स एंड डिस्क्लोजर्स, वो P&L में ही क्लियरली आपको डिस्क्लोज करना होगा, सो दैट रियली improves the information that is available from the company. So we say that other comprehensive income comprises items of income and expenses that are not recognized in profit or loss as required or permitted by other Ind AS. The other comprehensive income section shall present line items for amounts of other comprehensive income in the period, classified by nature and grouped into those in accordance with the other Ind AS, will not be reclassified subsequent to profit or loss, and will be reclassified subsequently to profit or loss when specific conditions are met. ये सारी चीजें अलग अलग Ind AS में ही मेंशन होगी। कोई Ind AS कहेगा कि इसको P&L में आप फ्यूचर में ले जा सकते हो, कोई Ind AS कहेगा कि इसको फ्यूचर में आप नहीं ले जा सकते। सारा जो भी इसका कंसेप्ट है वो डिपेंड्स ऑन द रिक्वायरमेंट्स ऑफ द अदर Ind AS. Right now we are only discussing the concept, that what do we mean by other comprehensive income, and as we will progress ahead अलग अलग Ind AS में we will come across different requirements जो OCI में जा सकता है या P&L में जा सकता है या नहीं जाएगा. One more new thing that we are now supposed to prepare as a part of our balance sheet is a statement of changes in equity, which is basically a reconciliatory statement. यहाँ आप reconcile करोगे that what was your equity share capital at the beginning of the year, what is the change during the year, and then what is your equity share capital at the end of the year. Similarly, जो भी आपके अलग अलग रिजर्व्स हैं उसका ओपनिंग बैलेंस क्या था ड्यूरिंग द ईयर, उसमें क्या क्या चेंजेस आए, और फिर आप दिखाओगे अपने रीडर्स को कि अब उनके क्लोजिंग बैलेंसेस क्या है. So it is out and out a reconciliatory statement where you will reconcile the opening and the closing, clearly bringing about that what are the reasons that these items have changed. This is yet again something which tremendously improves the, what we can say, the quality of the information that is available from the balance sheet. अभी क्या होता है, बैलेंस शीट इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल आप करंट ईयर की फिगर देखोगे और कंपैरिजन में लास्ट ईयर की फिगर देखोगे और फिर देखते हो कि अच्छा शेयर कैपिटल बढ़ गया, क्यों बढ़ गया, उसका डिस्क्लोजर होगा, बट इट विल बी इन नोट्स. यहाँ बैलेंस शीट में ही आपको डिस्क्लोज कर देना है कि दिस इज द रीजन कि वो शेयर कैपिटल बढ़ा है. शायद आपने कोई नए शेयर्स इश्यू किए हैं, शायद आपका कोई डिबेंचर या बॉन्ड था जो इक्विटी शेयर में अब कन्वर्ट हो चुका है, whatever is the reason, कुछ बोनस शेयर्स आपने दिए, जो भी रीजन हो, लेकिन क्यों शेयर कैपिटल बढ़ा वो SOCE में ही डिस्क्लोज हो जाएगा. सिमिलरली अभी जब हम बैलेंस शीट देखते हैं तो जनरल रिजर्व का क्लोजिंग बैलेंस दिखा होगा और फिर लास्ट ईयर का बैलेंस दिखेगा, तो दोनों में चेंज आ गया है. क्यों चेंज आ गया, दिखाओ इन द SOC. So an entity shall present a statement of changes in equity as a part of the balance sheet, a reconciliation between the carrying amount at the beginning and at the end of the period, separately disclosing each changes resulting from profit or loss. कितने changes P&L में से हुए हैं, how many changes have happened from other comprehensive income. For example, reserves में एक reserve है revaluation reserve, तो during the year revaluation reserve बढ़ा है, तो क्यों बढ़ा है, you are supposed to disclose it. Revaluation reserve शायद कम भी हुआ हो, क्यों कम हुआ है, it has to be shown as a reconciliation over here. Transaction with owners in their capacity as owners. So if let us say the company has declared dividend, if the company has declared dividend, then dividend is a transaction that the company is doing with the owners of the company. तो वो dividend आपको यहाँ पे दिखाना है. So Ind AS compliant financial statements में क्या होगा, you will be showing the retained earnings balance के opening balance कितना था, फिर उसमें हम ऐड करेंगे कि प्रॉफिट कितना हुआ इस कंपनी का, और फिर उसमें से हम माइनस कर देंगे डिविडेंड, and then we will show what is the closing balance of the retained earnings which we are showing in the balance sheet. तो वो देख के ही मुझे सारी इंफॉर्मेशन मिल जाएगी कि ड्यूरिंग द ईयर कितना डिविडेंड ये कंपनी ने पे किया है. So that needs to be disclosed, and any item that is recognized directly in equity. This is a very Ind AS kind of concept where there are certain transactions जिसका accounting directly equity में ही हो जाता है. मतलब I will bypass the profit and loss. I will also bypass OCI and I will directly account it in the retained earnings. So there are certain, बहुत कम है लेकिन there are certain transactions जो directly equity में ही उसका accounting होता है. तो वो भी आपको यहाँ पर दिखाना है. Normally items will affect, income and expenses. Normally it will affect your P&L. अगर P&L affect नहीं होता है तो OCI. लेकिन ऐसे कुछ items हैं जो P&L में भी नहीं जाएगी, OCI में भी नहीं जाएगी, directly retained earnings में जाएगी. That is what we say as items which are recognized directly in equity. For example, if a company has issued equity shares at a premium, अगर आपने equity shares issue किए हैं at premium, तो ये जो securities premium आया, वो P&L में थोड़ी ना जाएगा. वो securities premium OCI में भी नहीं जाएगा. वो securities premium directly equity का ही part हो जाएगा. By equity we mean the results and surpluses which is belonging to the shareholder. So इसका accounting directly equity में ही होने वाला है. तो ऐसी सारी items भी आपको यहाँ पर disclose करनी है. So these are a few new things that we have discussed. एक तो Ind AS में कोई भी extraordinary item नाम का कोई concept ही नहीं है. Other comprehensive income we concentrated a lot on it और ये concept बार बार हमारे Ind AS में आने ही वाला है. So please remember that. OCI, it will stand for other comprehensive income. Actually any reserve other than P&L we will be referring that as a part of other comprehensive income. जैसे for example अगर आप building का upward revaluation कर रहे हो तो हमारा accounting entry रहेगा building account debit to revaluation reserve. लेकिन revaluation just Ind AS में अगर आप accounting entry record करते हो ना तो you will say to revaluation reserve और फिर bracket में लिखेंगे OCI क्योंकि उसका reporting आपको OCI में करना पड़ेगा. ऐसा नहीं कह रहे हम कि we will say building to OCI. We will say building to revaluation reserve only. लेकिन revaluation reserve will become a part of your other comprehensive income. तो वो OCI के अंदर आपको disclose करना है. And of course, a new statement of changes in equity that needs to be prepared. Finally, what is the format? Yes, Schedule 3 of Companies Act 2013 provides a general instruction for preparation of financial statements of a company. Schedule 3 is divided into two parts, Division 1 and 2. Division 1 is applicable to a company whose financial statements are required to comply with the current accounting standards. This is what we are normally doing. अभी तक आपने जो भी बैलेंस शीट या P&L बनाई है वो आपने बनाई है as per Division 1 of Schedule 3. लेकिन अब आप बैलेंस शीट्स बनाओगे as per Division 2 of Schedule 3 because Division 2 is applicable to a company whose financial statements are drawn up in compliance with the Ind AS. And let me tell you, दोनों बैलेंस शीट के फॉर्मेट्स अलग हैं. आपने अभी तक जो बैलेंस शीट प्रिपेयर किया है ऐसा बैलेंस शीट अब आपको नहीं बनाना when you are following the Ind AS. And when I will show you the format, it will become very clear. We just jump to the format of balance sheet. ये वही कौन है ना लेफ्ट. See, this is the balance sheet format. क्या दिखाना है आपको पहले? Assets. Normally हम क्या करते हैं? अभी तक जो आप बैलेंस शीट बना रहे थे हॉरिजॉन्टल नहीं, अब तो वर्टिकल फॉर्मेट की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ. Do you show liabilities first and then assets?
Yes, sir.
I hope so.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
So now it's the other way around. आपको assets पहले दिखाना है, liabilities बाद में आएगी. Getting it? So your Ind AS compliant balance sheet will be that you have to first show the assets. Assets we are breaking it down into non-current assets and the current assets. Of course, ये पूरा description दिया है. I will not read all those items. The idea is only to show you what is the format of the balance sheet. So assets में non current assets आएंगे और current assets आएंगे. सिर्फ दो ही head हैं in on the asset side. Non current assets, current assets. उसका मीनिंग हमने ऑलरेडी समझ लिया है कि कौन सी आइटम नॉन करंट एसेट में जाएगा, कौन सा आइटम करंट एसेट में जाएगा. फिर है इक्विटी एंड लायबिलिटीज, राइट. इक्विटी एंड लायबिलिटीज, उसमें हम दिखाएंगे इक्विटी एंड जस्ट सी इक्विटी में इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल एंड अदर इक्विटी. दिस इज अ मेजर डिपार्चर. जो हम लोग बैलेंस शीट बनाते ना अभी तक, वी डोंट राइट इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल, वी राइट शेयर कैपिटल. और फिर शेयर कैपिटल के अंदर वी शो इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल एंड प्रेफरेंस शेयर कैपिटल. यहाँ पे प्रेफरेंस शेयर कैपिटल का कोई जगह ही नहीं है. They are simply saying equity share capital. And as we will discuss further the Ind AS, we will try to also understand कि क्यों preference share capital का कोई column Ind AS में नहीं आ रहा. क्योंकि अब तक हमने क्या समझा है, when we say shareholders, you know, many times confusion हो जाता है. When someone says shareholders को payment करना है, बोला shareholder को payment करना है, किसको करना है? Equity shareholders को भी करना है कि फिर preference shareholders को भी करना है, फिर दोनों को करना है, क्या है exactly? यहाँ पे कोई जगह ही नहीं है टू शो प्रेफरेंस शेयर कैपिटल. क्लियरली लिखा है, बैलेंस शीट में ही लिखा है, राइट. इक्विटी के अंदर क्या आएगा? इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल एंड अदर इक्विटी. ओके, सो देयर आर ओनली टू हेड्स हियर. एंड लायबिलिटीज, यस, क्लासिफाइड इनटू नॉन करंट लायबिलिटीज एंड द करंट लायबिलिटीज. वो भी हमने डिस्कस कर लिया है, कौन सी लायबिलिटी करंट लायबिलिटी है एंड विच लायबिलिटी, अगर वो करंट लायबिलिटी नहीं है तो नॉन करंट लायबिलिटी. ऑफ कोर्स बहुत सारे दूसरे सब हेड्स हैं, उसमें अभी जाने का कोई मतलब नहीं है, बट दिस इज हाउ वी विल बी प्रिपेयरिंग. फिर ये जो नई चीज हमने डिस्कस की थी, राइट, स्टेटमेंट ऑफ चेंजेस इन इक्विटी. तो क्या है एग्जैक्टली ये स्टेटमेंट ऑफ चेंजेस इन इक्विटी, उसका क्या फॉर्मेट है? सो जस्ट से इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल आपको दिखाना है. बैलेंस शीट में था ना इक्विटी के अंदर इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल एंड अदर इक्विटी, तो यहाँ पर भी उसको ब्रेक डाउन करेंगे इनटू इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल एंड अदर इक्विटी. Equity share capital, you can see you will have to show the balance at the beginning of the period, changes during the reporting period, and what is the balance at the end. ये जो balance at the end है वो balance sheet में जाएगा, right? Ultimately I'll show it in the balance sheet. लेकिन यहाँ पे मुझे reconcile करके देना पड़ेगा कि reporting period के शुरुआत में कितना था, कितना change हुआ और end में कितना हो गया. So I'm supposed to show that. And then in part B, I have this other equity, right? So you have this other equity. बहुत ही small font में है ये सब, right? These are all different items which will become a part of your other equity. और इसको आपको reconcile करके देना है. काफी सारे heads अभी आपको समझ में ही नहीं आएंगे. ये जब ऊपर के heads जो आप पढ़ोगे, you are like ये exactly speaking क्या हो रहा है? But these are all as per different Ind AS. अलग-अलग Ind AS से निकलकर ये सारी items आती है और उसका हमें reconciliation provide करना है. Okay? So that is how you will be preparing the SOCE. Basically Ind AS में जो भी हो रहा है, they are trying their level best that all those things are getting disclosed in your financial statements itself. Disclosures तो देने ही है, लेकिन जो मेन फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स है उसमें भी जितना हो सके आप डिस्क्लोज करो. फिर नोट्स में भी उसका डिस्क्रिप्शन आएगा, लेकिन फिगर्स तो एटलीस्ट एक बार आप डिस्क्लोज कर दो एट वन प्लेस, रादर देन एवरीथिंग स्कैटर्ड थ्रू आउट द एनुअल रिपोर्ट एंड यू आर आस्किंग द रीडर्स कि अब आप जानो और आपका लेवल ऑफ इंटरप्रिटेशन. इंस्टेड ऑफ दैट वी आर गिविंग एवरीथिंग इन अ वेरी हैंडी मैनर. And of course the P&L. ये क्यों छिप गया इसके नीचे? Yeah, so this is your P&L format. You will be showing the revenue from operations, then other income, so total, for expenses, and now just see, they are saying profit before एक्सेप्शनल आइटम्स, राइट। हमारा जो P&L होता है उसमें हम लिखते हैं प्रॉफिट बिफोर एक्सेप्शनल आइटम्स, एक्स्ट्रा ऑर्डिनरी आइटम्स एंड टैक्स। कोई एक्स्ट्रा ऑर्डिनरी आइटम नहीं है, फिर एक्सेप्शनल आइटम, देन प्रॉफिट बिफोर टैक्स, फिर टैक्स एक्सपेंस, करंट टैक्स, डिफर्ड टैक्स, और फिर प्रॉफिट फॉर द पीरियड। जैसे ही प्रॉफिट फॉर द पीरियड आएगा हम वर्ड यूज कर लेंगे कंटिन्यूइंग ऑपरेशंस। सो मान लो अगर आप 4-5 बिजनेस कर रहे हो और यू हैव डिसाइडेड इन द ईयर कि एक बिजनेस मुझे शट डाउन कर देना है, तो दैट विल बिकम अ डिसकंटिन्यूड ऑपरेशन। तो डिसकंटिन्यूड ऑपरेशन का इंफॉर्मेशन आपको अलग से देना है। So that is what they will say now here, that what is the profit from the discontinued operation, what is the tax expense for discontinued operation, and what is the profit after tax from discontinued operation. और फिर ये जो continuing operation में से जो profit आया और discontinued operation में से जो profit आया उसको दोनों को add कर देंगे, so that will become my profit and loss for the period, कि total profit कितना है। हमारा P&L normally यहाँ पे खत्म हो जाता है, लेकिन यहाँ पे continue रहेगा। We will now show other comprehensive income. So now we have this head of other comprehensive income, where in A we are saying items that will not be reclassified to profit or loss, और फिर उसका जो भी related income tax है वो आपको यहाँ पे दिखाना है, and items that will be reclassified to the P&L, और उसका जो भी related income tax है वो आपको यहाँ पे दिखाना है। So other comprehensive income में you are supposed to further classify into items that will not be reclassified to the P&L and items that will be reclassified to the P&L. And if it has any income tax impact, then the income tax impact should also be captured. Normally it will be a deferred tax impact. अगर कोई भी deferred tax impact है तो उसको भी capture करके आपको यहाँ पर दिखाना है। So that would be the format of the P&L. So यहाँ से अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकम आपको मिलेगा, फिर आपको टोटल कैलकुलेट कर लेना है। जो पहले प्रॉफिट आपने कैलकुलेट किया था और अब ये जो अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकम है, दोनों को ऐड करके जो आंसर आएगा उसको हम कहेंगे टोटल कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकम। एंड नाउ दीज आर ऑल अर्निंग्स पर शेयर डिस्क्लोजर। आपको ईपीएस डिस्क्लोज करना है, बेसिक एंड डाइल्यूटेड, कंटिन्यूइंग ऑपरेशंस का, डिसकंटिन्यूड ऑपरेशंस का, और कंटिन्यूड और डिसकंटिन्यूड दोनों को मिलाकर। ये आपको मिनिमम करना ही है। दिस इज समथिंग दैट यू डेफिनेटली हैव टू डू। ये आप करो ना करो चलेगा, लेकिन टोटल ईपीएस कितना था इस कंपनी का, दैट यू आर सपोज टू डिस्क्लोज। सो अर्निंग्स पर शेयर यू विल बी डिस्क्लोजिंग। और ये सारी चीजें अलग अलग इंड एएस से ही कैलकुलेट होगी। अर्निंग्स पर शेयर का अलग से इंड एएस है, इंड एएस 33, वो अप्लाई करके आपको अर्निंग्स पर शेयर कैलकुलेट करना है। Then you have Ind AS 105, which is dealing with discontinued operation. तो वो discontinued operation का profit कैसे calculate करना है वो वहां पे आपको समझाया है। फिर ये income tax जो आप calculate कर रहे हो उसके लिए Ind AS 12 है। So Ind AS 12 explains that how the current tax is to be calculated, how deferred tax is to be calculated. So all these items are ultimately going to be calculated as per or measured as per their respective Ind AS. That is the reason at the end the management is able to give this declaration कि ये जो financial statements हमने बनाए हैं, they are as per complying all the requirements of the Ind AS. Fair enough? Right. So this gives us a real good idea that अब जब हम balance sheet बनाएंगे, right? For example, any topic where we have to prepare the balance sheet, ये format रहेगा हमारा balance sheet का। आप इक्विटी लायबिलिटीज पहले नहीं दिखा दोगे, आप पहले एसेट्स दिखाओगे, फिर जाके आएगा इक्विटी एंड द लायबिलिटीज। इट्स द अदर वे अराउंड जो इतने सालों तक हम कर रहे थे, राइट। सो बेसिकली क्या होगा, जब हम एनुअल रिपोर्ट खोलेंगे ना और आप बैलेंस शीट देखोगे तो वो बैलेंस शीट देख के ही हमें पता चल जाएगा कि ये कंपनी ने अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड फॉलो किया है कि फिर मुझे पता तो चलना चाहिए ना कि उन्होंने अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड, या तो कहीं पे लिखना पड़ेगा। तो ऐसा तो है नहीं कि कहीं पे वो लोग लिखेंगे वी हैव फॉलोड अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड, दैट इज नॉट मेकिंग एनी सेंस एट ऑल। तो बैलेंस शीट के फॉर्मेट से ही मुझे पता चल जाएगा कि अच्छा इन्होंने अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड फॉलो किया है, क्योंकि एसेट्स वो लोग बाद में दिखा रहे हैं। इंड एएस वाली कंपनी एसेट्स पहले दिखा देगी, तो वो देख के ही पता चल जाएगा कि अच्छा ये कंपनी ने इंड एएस फॉलो किया है। इवन P&L से भी पता चल जाएगा। अगर कोई एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी आइटम का कोई हेड ही नहीं है तो फ्रॉम P&L itself it will become clear. P&L में कहीं पे अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकम लिखा गया है, ऑब्वियसली इट इज एन इंड एयर्स कंप्लायंट कंपनी, क्योंकि हमारे अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड में तो ऐसा कोई कंसेप्ट है ही नहीं. So it was necessary that the two formats are distinguished so that just by looking at the format, we can come to know whether the company has followed the current accounting standards or whether they have followed the Indian accounting standards. So this might be the reason why it is so. And as such also internationally, since years and years, companies have always shown assets first. India में ही पूरा उल्टा चल रहा था कि हम पहले इक्विटी और लायबिलिटीज दिखाते थे और फिर एसेट्स. कम ऑन, ऐसा पॉसिबल ही नहीं है. अगर मैं आपसे पूछता हूं, अगर इफ आई रियली आस्क यू कि मुझे आप अपना नेटवर्थ या कुछ बताओ, तो आप पहले क्या बात करोगे? पहले आप अपने क्या क्या प्रॉपर्टीज खरीदे उसके बारे में बात करोगे, या पहले ये कि मैंने एसबीआई से लोन लिया हुआ है, मैंने आईसीआई से भी लोन लिया हुआ है, उसकी बातें आप पहले करोगे? टेल मी, I'm just asking in general, what will you talk first about? Your assets? कि पहले योर के भी एसेट तो बाद में, पहले मुझे बता देने दो कि इतनी इतनी मेरी लायबिलिटीज है, वो तो बाद में आएगी ना. फर्स्ट आई एम इंटरेस्टेड इन योर एसेट्स. अगर आपने लोन लेके एसेट क्रिएट किया है तो मुझे क्या प्रॉब्लम है उससे? आई डोंट हैव एनी प्रॉब्लम विद दैट. दैट इज द राइट वे ऑफ यूजिंग अ लोन, कि आपने लोन लिया और एक एसेट क्रिएट किया. अगर आपने लोन लेके आप अपने खर्चे निकाल रहे हो, देन दैट इज समथिंग दैट आई विल बी नॉट comfortable with. But if you have taken a loan and you have built an asset out of it, I have no problem with it. So I should first disclose my assets, then the liabilities. It was the other way around. We want companies के पहले अपनी liabilities बताओ, asset तो बाद में, right? First you show your liabilities. तो पूरा उल्टा ही चल रहा है. Since years and years it is going on. Finally 2013 एक्ट में एटलीस्ट थोड़े बहुत प्रॉब्लम्स जो हमारे बैलेंस शीट में थे, जो 1956 से चलता ही आ रहा था, एटलीस्ट उन्होंने वो सारी चीजें निकाल दी. Otherwise, when I was studying, we had that old format. I don't know whether you guys might have also followed that format. ये आइटम आया था आपका, मिसलेनियस एक्सपेंडिचर टू द एक्सटेंट नॉट रिटन ऑफ. ऐसा कोई हेड आपने सीखा हुआ है बैलेंस शीट में? P&L डेबिट बैलेंस आए तो कहाँ दिखाने का? If there is a P&L debit balance, हाँ, what are you saying? माइनस करना है, ओके. हमको क्या सिखाया था? You have to show it on the asset side, because on the asset side we have a head miscellaneous expenditure to the extent not written off, and you are supposed to show the P&L debit balance over there. अगर P&L का क्रेडिट बैलेंस है तो वो लायबिलिटी साइड में दिखाने का, और P&L का डेबिट बैलेंस है तो एसेट साइड में दिखाने का, एज अ मिसलेनियस एक्सपेंडिचर टू द एक्सटेंट नॉट रिटन ऑफ. एक ऐसा हेड था, उसके नीचे उसको दिखाने का. सो जस्ट सी, लॉस है कंपनी का, and we were taught that you should be showing it on the asset side. Why should any company earn profit? क्योंकि प्रॉफिट अर्न करोगे तो लायबिलिटी बढ़ेगी, और लॉस इनकर करोगे तो अपना एसेट बढ़ेगा. तो मुझे तो लॉस ही करना चाहिए, क्योंकि उससे मेरा एसेट बढ़ता ही जाएगा. एज शी इज सेइंग, अब इसको माइनस करके हम दिखाते हैं, राइट? वी आर डिडक्टिंग इट, व्हिच इज द राइट ट्रीटमेंट, isn't it? So that is how it should be. Equity funds, for example, if someone is asking you that calculate equity funds, कैसे सीखे हम equity funds? If you want to calculate equity funds, share capital plus reserves and surplus minus accumulated losses. This is how we have been taught. आप लोग भी ऐसे सीखे हो? How do you calculate equity funds? Is it the same definition? Share capital plus reserves and surplus. क्यों भाई, क्यों माइनस एक्यूमुलेटेड लॉसेस? आपका रिजर्व्स एंड सरप्लस तो एक्यूमुलेटेड लॉस के बाद ही होना चाहिए, isn't it? So reserves and surplus should be after that. लेकिन हमको ऐसे सिखाया है. क्यों ऐसे सिखाया? क्योंकि एक्यूमुलेटेड लॉसेस तो शायद एसेट साइड में भी बैठे हुए होंगे, राइट? सो इंडिया में ऐसा अकाउंटिंग कंसेप्ट बना लिया हमने कि लायबिलिटी साइड से इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल लो, लायबिलिटी साइड से आप रिजर्व्स एंड सरप्लस ऐड करो, और अब एसेट साइड पे ढूंढो कोई एक्यूमुलेटेड लॉस है क्या? हाँ है, उसको माइनस करो. सो नाउ यू विल गेट योर इक्विटी फंड्स. अब हम क्या करते हैं, कोई भी रिजर्व का कुछ नेगेटिव बैलेंस है तो वो रिजर्व्स एंड सरप्लस में ही नेगेटिव कर देंगे और फिर उसका टोटल ले लेंगे. सो उसको ऑलरेडी हमने डिडक्ट कर दिया है. सो नाउ वी डोंट हैव टू टीच दिस. अगर इंटरनेशनली आप किसी को पूछोगे कि इक्विटी फंड्स कैसे कैलकुलेट करेगा, कोई भी नहीं बोलेगा माइनस एक्यूमुलेटेड लॉस. अरे वो तो माइनस हो गया है, उसके बाद ही तो रिजर्व्स एंड सरप्लस का फिगर मिलेगा आपको बैलेंस शीट में. लेकिन हमें ऐसे सिखाया है क्योंकि वो कहीं और भी हो सकता है, राइट? तो हमें ढूंढना पड़ेगा भाई कहीं और तो नहीं है ना. सो फिर उसको हमें माइनस भी करना होगा. सो सारे इंडियनाइज्ड कंसेप्ट है which finally we are rejecting and finally we are embracing जो internationally होता है. So that is eventually what is happening. So they are small steps but the right steps. Okay. So that basically covers in detail, right, all your basics of NDS. I personally believe that you are now well prepared to deal with the NDS, because when we meet next, I would like to start with some NDS. So my idea was to build a background. It should not happen that I just come and start with the NDS. जैसे हमारी movies में होता है ना, एकदम से शुरू हो जाएगा movie, फिर बाद में flashback आए. So I really don't want that. I start with the NDS और फिर NDS में आया, okay, इसको OCI में transfer करो. Everyone is looking, अरे यार ये OCI क्या है? Flashback. Now I'll tell you कि OCI का पूरा story कौन सा है. Movies में ऐसा सब अच्छा लगता है, right? कि flashback एक के बाद एक आ रहा है. But when we are studying, if I'll do everything in this way, कि पहले मैं आपको OCI में ले जाऊंगा, फिर वापस से उस concept पे आऊंगा, then it will not make any sense at all. So we just try to cover it. So that next time when we use the term that take this to OCI, you are mentally prepared कि हाँ OCI करके कुछ है, and then we know कि OCI का क्या concept है और accordingly हम उसका accounting कैसे करेंगे. अगर किसी आइटम को हम कहेंगे कि इसको P&L में ले जाना है, किसी आइटम को कहेंगे इसको SOCA में हम दिखाएंगे, तो you should be clear that how exactly those items will be ultimately reported. So that was the main idea, that you should have a proper background of what NDS is all about. And I personally believe, and I hope every one of you also agrees, that the ground has been built. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. So we have a proper ground on which we can, a proper foundation on which we can now build on each of the NDAs. The ones that we will be doing, we'll start with इसे जो book मैंने आपको दिया है उसमें ही financial instruments भी है, so we'll do with instruments. फिर हमें consolidated financial statements करना है, फिर हमको business combinations करना है, and all those are different NDAs. सारी चीजें हमें NDAs से ही अब सीखना है कि consolidation NDAs में कैसे होता है, business combination NDAs में कैसे होता है, उनके अलग-अलग NDAs हैं, and we'll be studying how that will be done. But the base is now ready. Yes. So today I'd like to end over here. There's no point of starting anything new right now. So we'll be meeting in the next week, and we will start now with financial instruments. There are 3 NDSs relating to financial instruments. We'll be dealing with that. Okay. So we'll be meeting next week. वो schedule जब बनेगा, it will be shared with you. Right. Tomorrow I don't have a class with you guys. So you have, लेकिन कोई class है आपका? Audit. Fine. So Sunday is a free day, right? Sunday भी class है? नहीं. So yeah. Enjoy the weekend. Saturday तो नहीं है आप लोगों के पास, but enjoy the बाकी का Sunday वाला weekend. So enjoy that, and we'll meet. Most probably we'll meet on Tuesday. We'll not have a class on Monday, but mostly we'll be meeting on Tuesday. मतलब मेरा class नहीं होगा, आप लोगों का हो सकता है, but as far as I am considered, it will not be there.